The premiere episode of The North Remembers, is brought to you by Minute with Mary. If you head on over to minutewithmary.com, there you'll find all sorts of tips and tricks and products that are related to skincare, makeup, and, hey, another podcast. Who would have guessed? So check out minutewithmary.com or search the hashtag Minute with Mary on social media.
When people ask you what happened here, tell them winter came for House Frey. Tell them the North remembers.
From Providence, Rhode Island, welcome to The North Remembers. It's a podcast dedicated to the show Game of Thrones on HBO. So sit back and relax because winter is here. Hi, everybody. How's it going? My name's Mary Larson.
My name's Blake. And I'm actually quite nervous.
Me too.
I'm quite nervous because I truly love Game of Thrones. And it's been, I've read the books, I've been watching it since day one, and here we are having a podcast about it. So I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous.
You know? But winter's here. Technically, spring is here. How much do you think HBO was trying to get this final season of Game of Thrones to actually arrive in winter?
Oh, I know. You know they wanted it so bad. But hey, you know, when you're making episodes that are upwards of an hour and a half long, and you have this, it's literally one of the largest battles ever filmed coming up. Ever.
I know.
In television history, cinema history, it's coming this season, and when you have something like that, they said that the Battle of the Bastards took a month to film. Apparently, the Battle of Winterfell is going to absolutely dwarf the Battle of the Bastards.
Are you kidding me?
So I'm looking quite forward to this. I'm looking quite forward to this.
Me too. I'm pumped. I am pumped. Well, we know that you are too because you're listening to this. You know, it's a podcast all about Game of Thrones. You've been with it maybe from the beginning. Maybe you've started just recently and you've binged it. But no matter what, we want you to subscribe to this podcast because, guys, this season's going to be short. It's going to be sweet, but it's going to be amazing. And you do not want to miss an episode of The North Remembers. So all you need to do is just open your favorite podcast app. And if you don't have one yet, we can recommend some. If you're on an iPhone, you actually have a built-in podcast app. It's called Podcasts. Just search The North Remembers. You can also find us on social media. Just search Mary and Blake. Or you could also head to maryandblake.com. There you can find all of our other podcasts and blogs.
And I also wanted to remind you, too, that if you are interacting with us on social media, just make sure you use that hashtag The North Remembers. That way we can actually just get right to it and have great conversation as always. So whenever you comment, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, just use the hashtag The North Remembers. All right, you ready to get into this one?
You bet.
Let's do it.
So we thought that this premiere episode would be one just to kind of lay down the law of letting you know who we are, where we're at, which house we would belong to, how we even started this, a little backstory. Blake and I are a married couple. We're hardcore nerds. We have 2 kids. They're 3 and 5. And Blake has actually read the books, the book series.
Right, which is largely irrelevant now. It gives me some backstory to all the stuff that happened before.
Which made it really fun to watch with him because he would get to watch my reactions to things like the Red Wedding.
Oh, the Red Wedding.
Like the Viper, like all these great, amazing things. Even just Ned. Oh, God.
I know.
But so it's been really fun, and we thought that we would kind of do this premiere episode giving you just some of our favorite things that have happened over these past several years to let you know where our minds are at. Maybe you can play along too and use that hashtag The North Remembers. You know, as Blake said, check out our Facebook page. You know, let us know what your favorites have been.
Right.
And you can kind of play along.
And Mary and I have been podcasting now since, 2014, so it's been 5 years. We've had many podcasts, all of which you can find at maryandblake.com, as a matter of fact. But we've podcasted about The Leftovers on HBO. We spoke to Damon Lindelof and had a bunch of great actors and actresses and directors and writers and everything. We podcast about Outlander, the show on Stars. Same deal. Writers, directors, showrunners, the whole thing. We actually podcast about This Is Us on NBC. We did Gilmore Girls. And we had a parenting podcast. Mary has a podcast about her business. We have more podcasts than you could ever friggin' possibly imagine.
Yes.
And, all of our listeners had requested that we do the final season of Game of Thrones. And we figured, hey, we already don't have a life, so we might as well just podcast about one more thing. I mean, hey, we're going to be talking about it anyway in bed, so we might as well podcast about it and have microphones in front of our faces and have a thank you to all of our listeners that have supported us throughout all the years and enjoy our time.
So thankful.
Our 6-day vacation in Westeros. That's what we've been calling it.
Yes.
So I'm quite excited about it. So, Mary,
Yep.
now that we're here and we're podcasting about it, where do you place Game of Thrones, the show, like in your pantheon of shows? Like, we all know that we have our favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you place this one? Like, is it in your top 2, top 3, top 5, top 10?
It's probably in my top 5. You know,
Okay, yeah.
It is something that I'm going to be excited to see where it is in 5-10 years when it's off the air. You know, of course, when there's a show that's currently on the air within the past year or so that you're looking forward to, especially being its final season, it's easy to say that it's one of my favorites. But I can tell you the vastness of this universe, the complexity of the characters and the family dynamics, and how much of it I've been able to sadly relate to my own life.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Exactly, aka your life. It's made it a really interesting I don't know, just show. And for you and I to have seen it from the very beginning, it's been fun for me to see it be from this super nerd, like not really hip, cool thing that I remember talking about it. I remember being on a television show here in Rhode Island and I was like, oh, I want to talk about Game of Thrones. And people were like, that's nerdy. Only nerds watch that. And I was like, you wait. You just wait, my friends, because this is going to be big. It's so good. So I think it's in my top 5 and I do think it's going to stay in my top 5.
For those who don't know you quite as well as some of our other listeners or me, because I'm your husband.
Okay.
What are some of the shows that are in your top 5? I mean, what's your taste like?
Oh, my taste really varies.
Sure.
Like a great deal.
Sure.
So I like shows that transport me away, that either make me smile or make me have deep thoughts. I'm a huge fan of the Gilmore Girls because I'm pretty sure Lorelai Gilmore is my spirit animal. She's my Patronus. I think I'm her. So that's definitely one of my favorite shows. Lost is one of my favorite shows. I loved the thought-provoking in the universe that was able to bring, even though it kind of lost its tracks halfway through in the show.
But it got back. It got back on the rails.
Right back on.
Yes.
It was a huge bonding show for Blake and myself. I also highly, highly love Outlander. It's another show that we podcast about. It's one of my favorite book series. It's given me so much more love and appreciation for my Scottish heritage. I think it's a beautiful love story. I think it's my favorite television love story that is in my top 5.
Sure.
And I also have loved the show The Leftovers, which was also with Damon Lindelof. So, there's a lot of shows that are in my top 10. But I would say that those are. Did I name 5?
I think you named 5.
If not, I named 4.
People are like, no, that's 6.
How many about you? Well, like, what are yours?
I would say that Game of Thrones is in my top 6, maybe top 5. I go back and forth. I would say that Lost is my number 1. Breaking Bad is number 2. 24 is number 3.
You love 24.
I love 24.
I know.
24 was so great. I mean, yeah, that's a show that kind of came off the rails at the end. But like, I don't know if you can argue that there's a better season of television than season 5 of 24. That season was it was incredible.
Like, and I loved House of Cards, but that went crazy.
The whole Kevin Spacey thing,
Meh.
that kind of just weirds me out. The Leftovers also. I actually would think that I would probably put The Leftovers above 24 now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
And
I love The Crown. I love Fuller House.
Yeah.
No joke.
And then lastly, I have a rotating bunch of number 5s. I think if I'm caught watching it at any given moment, it'll be my number 5, like Arrested Development.
Parks and Rec. Halt and
Catch Fire. Halt and Catch Fire is one of those really underrated shows that, like it's the best show I know that you've never seen. And it's incredible. It was on AMC.
It is amazing.
I love that. So those are mine.
Just to give you an idea of our
and then obviously
varied, but this is
Game of
obviously
Thrones.
but this is obviously one of our top 5. That's why we decided.
Again, you're getting to
finally do
know us, so you might as well
Yeah.
know our tastes.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we're in Game of Thrones territory,
Mm-hmm.
which house?
Ooh.
What's your house?
it. What's my house?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, why don't you start things off? Because you obviously know what house you are.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't prepared for
I am House Lannister.
Why?
There is just two ways around it. All right, for those of you who don't know me very well, and some of you probably don't, my dad, I love my dad, I truly do, but my dad is the living incarnation of Tywin Lannister. I work in a family business. It is a lucrative business that it has been very successful. I work with my family. My sister. One of my sisters is absolutely Cersei Lannister. And, it's just a very complicated relationship that I have with my family. And I often feel like Tyrion, just trying my best to impress my dad, failing at everywhere. And even when I do succeed, it's still not enough. But it's just that whole notion of family and in your name and being proud of that. A Lannister pays his debts. That whole thing. I really find myself feeling like a Lannister.
Okay.
Even like Jaime too. Jaime being the golden boy who, there's this moment when Tywin says to Jaime, I need you to be the man that you're supposed to be. Not in the future, not in the past, right now. And like, I feel that. So House Lannister, I am absolutely. So have you come up with an idea?
I'm taking an online quiz right now because I think I know who I am.
Okay. What's your gut tell you? That's the real thing.
My gut tells me House Stark.
I would tend to agree because Mary. See, in terms of Harry Potter, I'm a Slytherin. Okay,
Completely.
and Mary is completely
Correct.
House Gryffindor.
Correct.
Okay, so I kind of feel like they're relatively the same, House Lannister and House Stark. Respectively, House Slytherin and House Gryffindor. So I feel like you're probably right there. Although sometimes I feel like you could be a Tyrell, and I feel like Lady Olenna.
Oh yeah,
you.
She's my spirit animal in this show.
I know. Lady Olenna has 0 Fs. 0, and she tells it like it is, and that is what you do as well. And for those of you again who don't know us quite well, Mary pulls no punches, and she tells you just the way that it is. So everything is clear, and that's something I appreciate about my darling wife.
Thanks. I'm very right to the point.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. What's your online quiz showing so
It's
far?
almost there.
Oh my God. I can only kill so much time here.
I know.
Martha.
You're doing so great. I like these questions. If family member is pissing you off, what do? Find a way to work it out. Find a way to get away from them or them away from you. Give them a silent treatment or get them imprisoned or worse, expelled. Oh my gosh. I find a way to work it out, guys. You want to be the Iron Throne? Okay, there we go. And then it's going to tell me what I am.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Here's the big drum roll.
It takes so long. It takes so long.
How can an online quiz?
It says on House Mormont.
Oh.
That sucks.
It's a lesser known house.
Okay. Oh, it didn't. Shoot. It just told me why and then it got rid of it. Come on.
Oh, you're
tell me why.
killing me.
Oh my God. Come on.
Okay, well, your House Mormont, that is,
You know what? Nope.
All right, so.
I'm Stark. I took that whole bloody quiz to be told I'm House Mormont. Thanks a lot.
It's like to being told that you're a Hufflepuff.
That's pretty much. You know what though? I would say yes. I would say yes. Anyway, okay. So I'm a House Stark. Let's go into some more exciting things where I don't have to take an online quiz.
Yes, because that was great
Like
podcast radio
seasons.
right there.
Favorite
All right,
seasons.
what's your favorite season?
All right. Season 6. Season 6, where
Okay.
like all the little bits, they started to just be like aligning up. You know, everybody was in their own little spot. It's kind of like in Risk when everything kind of gets real, guys. Or it's like a Monopoly when it's taking so long and then everybody's got hotels and you're like, this just got real, guys. Like, you all perk back up, you drink your second cup of coffee, and you're like, let's bring it. Because Melisandre brought Jon back to life, which,
Yes.
people pretty much figured out, but that was still like a huge,
It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Battle of the Bastards, Hold
Yeah.
the Door.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
my gosh.
Lot of great stuff. A lot of great
so many
cathartic
great
stuff.
things. So many great things. And then my girl, Lyanna Mormont.
No, Lady Olenna.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, for me, I'm going to go season 3 on this one. You can argue that season 6 is the best. I'm willing to have that conversation, but I think right now I'm on season 3.
Yeah.
And I love season 3 because it really breaks down Jon Snow, who is still somewhat of a side character, but you become so much more invested in him because of Ygritte and their relationship, how it evolved, his Jon Snow, how he's conflicted at every turn in the season. I mean, but in that moment in the cave when they're together and they're climbing the wall later on, and I absolutely loved all of Jon Snow and Ygritte. And it's even better knowing that they're married in real life.
Oh my gosh. That just takes things to a whole nother level.
I thought that was great.
Agreed.
Daenerys, I feel like in this season is probably at her best, aside from maybe season 6 or 7. But I mean, just the way with when she gets the Unsullied at Astapor, and then she goes to Yunkai, and granted, that was maybe somewhat of a mistake, but regardless,
it's an amazing season.
It's great.
I think it might be my second.
The whole thing
favorite.
with Arya, the Brotherhood Without Banners.
Oh my
and,
gosh!
And the thing I really loved about it too is that it finally really expanded when stuff got weird.
Yes.
With the Lord of the Light and Melisandre and Thoros of Myr and Beric Dondarrion dying and coming back 6 times. That whole portion was great. And then it introduced Ramsay, and a guy that we absolutely loved every
Okay, you're
moment
starting to make
hate.
me think I made the wrong choice.
But my favorite part,
Yeah.
my favorite part is absolutely Jaime and Brienne. That friendship
So good.
as they're trying to get to King's Landing, and when he
putting each other out on the line for each other.
oh man, talking about the sapphires or saving her from the bear,
You're right. Okay. It might be it is my second favorite season.
Yes,
I will
okay.
tell you that. Okay. Favorite episode. What has been your favorite episode?
Now, I know a lot of people will probably say the Reigns of Castamere or the Battle of the Bastards, and I would agree. Those, especially Battle of the Bastards, and in obviously being season 3 for the Reigns of Castamere and the Red Wedding, and obviously you would think that would be my favorite, and it's close. But for my money, I'm either going to go with The Door. With Hodor and how it almost felt like a horror movie. It was tense. It finally gave us some real meat as it came to Bran, his powers of warging, how he could manipulate time, and how he was the one who, made Hodor the way that he was, and how Hodor was actually hold the door, and that came from Bran, and also too. It was the first episode directed by Jack Bender, who was the main primary director of Lost. And I felt like you could feel like it was Lost a little bit.
Yeah.
You felt Jack Bender's presence. And I really like that. The Winds of Winter for me obviously was great, obviously because Dany finally is coming to Westeros. But Cersei and the whole trial, killing everybody off in that moment of her son just jumping out the window, and Tommen just ending it, and it just felt freaking awesome. And then obviously Arya too, finally calling an end to Braavos and the whole thing. She's moving on. But my real money's on Hardhome. This is when the director Miguel Sapochnik really came out. He came out on top, man. That final 20 minutes of Hardhome. That is when the show
So good.
got real weird.
Yes.
It got real weird, and it really made you realize that Jon Snow was the man.
Mm-hmm.
He was the man, and it was sad, and it was great because it was eventually followed up by him getting killed. But that moment when the Night King raises his arms and all the people that they just killed just came back to life, and that
Wild.
deafening silence as they're just floating away on the boat, and there's just nothing.
Stop.
I mean, that was an incredible episode. How about you, my darling? What do you got for your
My
favorite
goodness
episode?
gracious. So one thing that you guys need to know is I have very conflicted feelings when it comes to like favorite episodes and how an episode made me feel, because so much of Game of Thrones is not traditionally stuff that I love. Like, I don't love blood and gore. I don't like feeling awkward all the time. And that's pretty much Game of Thrones.
Right.
Is you feel awkward all the time for somebody and somebody's gonna die.
And a commandment of Marion Blake is that we rate episodes of any television show from any series. The rating depends on how it makes you feel.
Yes.
If you feel something, that's how you rate it.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just in like a good mood right now, and I want to talk about an episode that made me feel really, really good. And it's Kissed by Fire, so it's a lot about.
How
the one
did
that
I
you're
know
talking
this was coming?
about. What do you mean?
I just knew that this one was coming. I know
because
it.
I'm like talking about feeling good.
Yes.
So honestly, so it's the episode where John and Ygritte get it on.
Yes.
Okay, that made me feel really good.
Yep.
Enjoyed that. I would have liked to stay in that cave as well.
All right, calm down. Married woman.
It's where Jamie and Brienne have the tubby time.
Yes.
And with his little stump next to him the whole time. You can't focus because he's got that stump right next to his head. But he tells you exactly, like, here's why I killed the Mad King. And nobody ever asked me why. And you're like, man, mic drop Jamie Lannister. And then also, this is where the Hound kills Beric Dondarrion, however you say his
Dondarrion.
name. Whatever. Yeah. The Lord of Light has brought this person back. You know what? As we've done our rewatch, I'm like, who flippin' cares about Jon Snow? He was only brought back from the dead once. This guy's been brought back,
Six times.
Seriously, like, what in the world? Unbelievable. And it's great because, like, you know, I loved this episode so much more on rewatches.
Right.
Because you get to see how important this episode is for all of these characters. Like, John breaks his oath. He bangs a chick. Okay,
Right.
guys?
Right.
Jamie tells the secret that he's had his entire life. And you were able to see what the Lord of Light is able to do.
Yeah, like whether or not you believe that he's real, something is happening.
Some serious crazy magic when you're talking around fire
Right.
is able to happen. And what blows my mind is in the rewatches is watching this and seeing how Beric was able to come back to life and how there was any question in anyone's minds that John would be able to come back to life. Like, at this point, I'm like, Eddard Stark could come back in the last season and I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I would be surprised.
I would be surprised.
Someone
too.
else I think is coming back, but we'll leave that to the end. So
Okay.
that's my favorite episode right now, just because it makes me happy. If I think about episodes that like blew me away, I agree. Hard Home would be right on up there. The Red Wedding would be right up there. The episode of the Red Wedding, there's just so many. Even just the first episode. First episode
Right.
like made me fall in love with the Starks. Seeing Bran, this young boy, be tossed out of a building, it really kind of not only did it set up the characters, but to see how much these characters have changed. It's a brilliant episode. If you haven't rewatched it recently, I highly recommend you do, just to see how young these actors are and to see how some characters have completely changed their compass.
Even the beginning of the episode, you know, how it felt completely unrelated to all of it, even though it played a huge part, meaning the guys that go out beyond the wall and they all get killed. Mm-hmm. But it was just this moment of when you see the White Walker and he's holding one of the crows and he just moves his sword through the guy's neck and just for a brief moment the guy's standing and then his body just flops, but the walker is still holding his head. I loved that part because it set you up for the whole series. It told you right away what it was going to be. Mm-hmm. There was no question. And it set up the whole thing with how they set up the bodies and people coming back to life and all of it. and the little girl that was killed all of a sudden had the blue eyes and the whole thing. That first episode was great. Even the Blackwater, the Battle of the Blackwater, that episode was great too, with the wildfire at the end and Tyrion doing his best to defend the city. That's another underrated episode, I feel like.
Yes.
It kind of gets lost in the middle of everything. All right, so favorite character.
Okay.
Where are we on favorite characters?
All right, so my favorite character is Jon Snow.
Okay.
I think that's because I'm really House Stark.
Yep.
And I think that Jon Snow is the best Gryffindor in this entire show, through and through. Except there's one aspect of him that I don't really see as Gryffindorish, which I see almost as Hufflepuffish.
Okay.
Jon Snow doesn't want the glory. He doesn't want the throne, and I feel like Gryffindors would be like, sure, I'll take the throne. I earned it.
Okay,
like,
sure.
I'm brave. I'm cool. I got this. I'll earn those points for the House Cup. Jon Snow, I just really admire his progression, but how he's really stayed true to who he is. He's never done anything wrong in my books. Honestly, I watch him and I'm like, that was a good choice.
Character.
He really is a fantastic character,
Yeah.
flawed only because of what people have assumed of him.
And done around him.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And really, he's not in this for. And he joined the Brotherhood of the Black. He took the Black Cloak, guys. Like,
Yep.
he is not here to be famous. My extra characters that I need to give shout outs to that I also love, but they're not Jon Snow. I love the Spider.
Oh, yes.
I adore him. I think that he is incredibly interesting. He's another person who has the good of the realm always at heart. He has always been true to that,
Yes.
that it's not necessarily who's on the throne, but if it's who the person who's right for the kingdom, know? And I've really enjoyed seeing him be honest.
Right.
And
there was this great conversation between he and Littlefinger when they're saying, listen, when Varys is saying, I'm for the realm. And Littlefinger says, what is that? It's just a bunch of stories and that that's it. And,
Yep.
and Varys comes back with this line saying, yeah, but if it wasn't for those stories, it'd be complete chaos. Now, eventually, I feel like Littlefinger wins this argument by saying, well, chaos is a ladder. Like, that was such a great line, right? Chaos
Yes.
is a ladder. And I agree. But ultimately, Varys is the one that wins out. Varys' notion of the realm ends up trumping Littlefinger. I mean, we saw how it went. Chaos may have been the ladder for Littlefinger, but it eventually led to his demise. And Varys is the one who's with the right person, apparently. I mean, he's the one that's still running things, or at least kind of in control of things.
yes.
So I like that too. You got any others?
Yes. Okay. So my other honorable mentions, Sir Davos.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh, I just adore him and his little reading lessons. And he too, I think his heart's always in the right place and he really tries hard. I feel like
Yes.
he and Varys would be best friends. Like, they'd be like, do you want to go to Target? I do. Okay, buddy. Like, I just feel like they'd be like Target best friends, like go run errands. And then my other honorable mention is Brienne of Tarth.
Yes. Just another honest character. You know what you're getting. You and I couldn't be any more different.
You know what I would want to do with Brienne?
What?
I would totally go on a whitewater rafting trip with her. Wouldn't you? Like, let's go do something crazy, kind of fun, but I also know that if I bounce out,
Yep.
you're going to save me. Because Davos can't. He's a little weak in the hands after
After not having any fingers.
he won't grab my life vest.
Oh, man. All right. You and I, like I said, could not be any more different.
Tell me why.
And I'm saying this because your favorite characters are all the honest, good characters. You know what you're getting. They're at heart. Their most important part of them is that there's no nonsense. There's no frills. I mean, you get what you get. And for the most part, they're looking out for the good of the realm and the good of the situation that they're in. My two favorite characters, number one, and it's not even close. It's not even close. Is Jaime Lannister.
Yes, you do adore him.
I love me some Jaime Lannister because I feel like so far he's had the biggest arc out of any character. He starts off one way, in love with his sister, and having relations with her,
Pushing Bran out of a window.
And living up to the Kingslayer moniker. He reminds me almost of Sawyer in Lost, if you remember that. How Sawyer had the name. He had the name Sawyer, but as we all know, spoiler alert, that's not his real name. And he lived up to it because that was what he needed to do. I'm not going to get into why, but that's what he needed to do. And he lived into that persona. Jaime is the Kingslayer, and he lived into that persona because it protected him. And as much as it hurt him, it made him feel good. It made him feel like when you can't help yourself, but just live this life.
Yeah.
But deep on the inside, he's Jaime. And we see that moment with Brienne and how the story and the Mad King and everything. And he eventually realizes, holy smokes, it's not just about being the Kingslayer. It's about being Jaime Lannister and protecting and having oaths and fighting for the right cause and realizing that you start at the beginning of loving your sister and having relations and your family being the most important thing to all of a sudden being true at the end of season 7.
Oh my gosh.
True to
just
himself.
Like leaving. Exactly.
And what an arc.
Yeah.
What an arc. But just for S&Gs, my other favorite character is Bronn.
Oh my God, we are so opposites. I love it.
I love Bronn. Bronn has something witty to say every time. I love his character too. I love the way that he's portrayed, and eventually how both he and Jaime work together when they're trying to rehab Jaime and teach him how to fight again after losing his hand. I mean, that's another thing that Jaime is friggin' awesome about. I know I'm talking about Bronn, but Jaime loses the one thing that made him the Kingslayer. The greatest swordsman in all of Westeros, his hand. And he has to become something else. Not only emotionally has he become something else, but physically he has to become something else. So I love Jaime and I love Bronn and I love them together. And those are my two favorite characters. Okay, what do you got for your favorite moment?
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. The kiss at the wall between... I know it's once again, I already mentioned that episode, the sex episode. I don't know. I just love that Jon Snow had moments of joy in his life.
Yep.
Once again, guys, he's my favorite character, and he has just had such a rough time of life. He's been pushed down as a bastard. He's been mistreated his entire youth by Catelyn Stark, who... Gosh, why are you going to be so mean, okay? Then goes to the wall to find out it is totally undersold, oversold. It is not fun. It is not like going to Disney World, all right? It's terrible.
Yep.
And he falls in love, and he makes these big decisions. And to be able to be there and to show, the difference of the north of the wall, the south of the wall, to have that moment together, and to have them continually say I'm yours, you're mine. I don't know. I just loved it. Hold the door.
Yes.
With Hodor, another beloved character, and just it was always this question, this question that you didn't even know you had. Was why is that all he says? You know what I mean? There's so many other moving parts that happen in Game of Thrones that you forget to ask, why is Hodor the way he is?
Yep.
And then we get this amazingly tragic explanation for it.
Yep.
And then another moment that has been one of my favorites is the Mother of Dragons. When Daenerys emerges from the fire, naked, 3 baby dragons on her, just owning the world, and the dragon has been reborn. Right. So that's those are some of my favorite moments.
So for me, the moments that I love and the things that I love most about Game of Thrones is that it makes you feel something visceral. The moments that stick out where you're like, holy crap, that is friggin' incredible. Whether it's just the blocking of the episode or how it's shot or the emotionality behind something. But for me, my number one moment is easily Jaime confessing about being the Kingslayer and killing the Mad King to Brienne. It was such an honest and raw moment. And talking about Ned Stark, and how could Ned Stark ever want to hear my side, and the whole thing, and how Jaime was sitting on the throne waiting, and it just such a beautiful moment in the tub, such a beautiful moment of vulnerability for a guy who at that point in the show had shown very little vulnerability, and it just expanded his character. Jon standing in front of the Bolton army alone in Battle of the Bastards, with all the horses riding at him, and he has his sword up to his side, and he's ready to go after making the mistake of going after his brother and taking the bait from Ramsay. He knew he shouldn't have done it, but he did it anyway. Just a beautiful, breathtaking shot. So far, I think that's the one shot that stands out to me most when I think of Game of Thrones. Another shot that stands out to me too, in another moment, is Daenerys's Dracarys. And
At which point?
I know,
like anytime she
the one
says it.
when she gets the Unsullied army. And it was so well planned. She didn't say anything to anybody. And she's holding the whip and she says, okay, so it's done then, right? They're mine? Yeah. Okay, sure. And then she reveals that she speaks High Valyrian to the masters. And she says all the orders in High Valyrian. And the way that she says just Dracarys, like, oh my God.
Yes.
And the way that it's shot, the way that Alex Graves directed it, you see all the fire behind her as it's going. Oh,
she's like just walking away. She's like, what else?
And so, but a couple of moments that are like honorable mentions for me is the scene with young Ned, and when Bran goes back in time right before the Tower of Joy.
Yes.
And he's fighting Sir Arthur Dayne, and Sir Arthur Dayne has the two swords, and he's killing everybody.
Yep.
And it wasn't Ned who actually killed him. Even though that's what Ned had said to his children throughout, and that's what's been promoted throughout history. What a great moment. And then also another cool moment is Tyrion when he first sees the dragons at Dragonstone, and they're walking on the walkway. And he like ducks when they
did that so well that it made us forget that we've seen dragons for quite some time now.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So we've been very positive.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get a little tad negative here.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. Worst moment. What do you got for your worst moment of the show?
The worst moment of the show.
Like eye roll moments or worst moment. Just in general.
Well, there's a difference for me between worst moment, like it made me just feel terrible, versus I think that was either poor writing or poor directing or whatever. The one that honestly made me feel the worst was the Red Wedding, and seeing seeing her
Talisa
unborn baby be stabbed in her womb. Was I pregnant at that point when we watched it?
That was the third season, so yes, you were pregnant.
That's why it's the worst, guys. I was pregnant while I watched a pregnant woman get slaughtered in her belly.
And Mary wasn't just like a little pregnant. She was big pregnant.
Yeah. I was like, this is the worst thing in the entire world. And Blake just watched me because he knew it was coming. So that to this day, out of everything, out of the mountain crushing the Viper's eyes, out of Blackwater, out of Battle of the Bastards, out of Bolton and Reek, honestly, the Red Wedding, because I was pregnant, worst moment ever. I think my second worst favorite moment ever was seeing Ned Stark be beheaded, because I fell in love with the Starks, and I felt like I was Team Stark all the way, and I felt like Ned Stark was a pretty good dad. You know, I didn't agree with everything that he did, but, you know, he tried really hard, and I felt like he was I felt like he tried.
And having the guts to do that.
To kill off this character that you thought was going to be a main character going forward blew my mind. I think some honorable mentions, meaning like things that I just hated writing wise. Littlefinger's monologue in season 1. Was it season 1 or season 2?
I think it was season 1. Yeah.
So he's in his brothel and he's like telling you, I'm a bad guy. I'm just talking to myself. The two prostitutes in the back are learning how to get each other off. It's just complete like lewdness to be lewd. It's like HBO being like, sure, show as much TNAs as you want.
Yeah.
Go to town with the sex. Go to town with the killing. Go to town with the swears.
And you're not a prude by any stretch.
No.
It's just it was just pointless.
It was just like, let's have Littlefinger have this monologue, and what should we do in the background? Let's have two girls going at it. So in the process, you're not paying attention to him because you're paying attention to these two naked girls having a blast.
Right.
And you're not listening to Littlefinger saying, I am someone you should not trust. Like, you're not, and maybe that's the whole point, but I didn't like that. And the other thing is, how did Jaime not die when he faced a dragon? And
yeah, that's true.
like, I'm
How
sorry.
did he not drown?
Seriously. Yeah, he was in like full out armor.
Right.
How did you not drown?
Yes.
I have a tough time swimming if I have like jeans on. You know, when you're in high school and you go to a pool party and someone throws it and you're like, oh my gosh. And you get in and you're like, dang, wet jeans are hard. So that was another thing that I had an issue with. How about you?
Yeah, for me, I would say I really disliked Ramsay and Sansa. The rape scene, I was not a big fan of that. I felt like that was one of those ones that was thrown in there for the sake of having it thrown in there. And it was at this time, too, where we were watching Outlander, and Outlander was very rapey. And
it was actually the same weekend where the lead male character, I don't want to give things away. Anyway, there was male rape.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you're right. It was the same week.
Same exact week. And the way that Outlander handled rape and then not the recovery, but like the post trauma of rape was so different in how it was handled versus Sansa being raped.
Right.
And it was tough anyway, because once again, both shows are very heavy on rape, but it was just such a dramatic difference in how they handled major characters being raped and how that then affected them.
I didn't like that particularly. And it's, again, not a prude. It's just, I just felt like it was just one more thing to add to Ramsay's belt on why you hated him. And I felt like you could have done that in a more articulate way. But I think the biggest thing for me is most of season 5.
Yeah.
I hated season 5. Everything to do with Dorne. Even though I loved Pedro Pascal as the Viper, I thought he was great. But he ended up dying in season 4, so it's not really applicable.
Yeah.
I hated everything to do with the snake, the sand snakes, and the Viper's wife, and although I really did love when Cersei ended up kissing the wife. The wife's daughter, one of the sand snakes, and said, I'm going to lock you in this dungeon.
Yes.
And you're going to watch her die, just like the way Marcella died when you kissed her. That was poetic to me. That is also one of my favorite moments, too. That was visceral for me. But everything in season 5 for the most part, and everything having to do with Dorne. Dorne sucked.
I agree.
I was done with Dorne. So what are you hoping to see in the new season? What is something in this season 8? What's like the one thing that you want to happen?
Who run the world, girls? Basically, I want girls to rule the world of Westeros. That's been the problem.
Yes.
It's pretty much like that Jurassic Park, like dinosaurs rule the world, dinosaurs die, man creates dinosaurs, but the whole God creates dinosaurs, dinosaurs die. The whole like thing from Jurassic Park, and then women inherit the earth.
Yes.
That's what I'd like to see happen.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for me, I look forward to seeing Jon and Dany come to the realization that they're related.
Oh my gosh. So awkward, and yet.
But like.
That's what people do.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Targaryens did, you know? I mean, and that happens. So like, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
I can just picture Jon being like, oh, cool. I'm really glad I have a family.
Yeah.
What do we do for Christmas traditions? Do we like bake a certain cake? Do we watch a certain movie? I'm so excited to have a family.
Where's Christmas vacation? So I look forward to seeing that. Who do you think? Do you think one of Daenerys is going to end up on the Iron Throne eventually?
I don't think there's going to be a throne.
You stole that right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine. I don't think there's going to be a throne either.
I think that the dragons are going to accidentally melt it or something's going to happen, but I don't see there being a throne.
And I would say, and this is kind of getting into our prediction, but you know what? So
sorry. Okay. Yeah.
No. We might as well just get into our predictions.
Just do it.
I would say, let's just get into the predictions and we'll go from there. If I can find the button, here
you
it is.
got this.
All right. So normally, for when we did the leftover, it was called the sudden theory of the week. For the leftover, for Outlander, it was called outlandish theory of the week. For This Is Us, it was called the hot take. For the North Remembers, I think we're going to call it three-eyed raven time. This is our three-eyed, because, the three-eyed raven, he sees in the future and so on. So this is the three-eyed raven time for us.
I like it.
The three-eyed raven time for me,
I feel like
theory,
we need like a
I know, that's true.
sound effect.
That's a good idea. I think I'll do that next time.
Okay.
I think for me, I don't think there's going to be someone on the throne. I think Westeros, as we know it, will be completely changed. And it's not because I'm wicked smart and I know what's coming or whatever. I don't. Nobody knows what's coming. But if you go back to when Dany was in the House of the Undying in season 2,
Yeah.
she had that vision. She had the vision of being with Khal Drogo and her unborn son. But she also had this vision of being in the Red Keep.
And it was either snowing or ashy. You
It was
couldn't
either
really
snow
tell.
or ash. You're right. To me, it felt like snow.
Oh, see, I felt like it was ash.
It could be either, but the
It
red
could be both.
It could be
'cause
both,
winter's
right?
coming.
I know, and the windows were all smashed in. It was silent. Such a beautiful shot, by the way. But she goes to touch the throne, and as she goes to touch the throne, she hears her dragons, and she just she comes in within an inch of touching it and doesn't touch it. And I feel like that is some excellent visual storytelling.
Yes.
And I feel like that is where the story is going. I think it's telling you, again, the show has always told you what it was, for the most part, up front. And I think the show is telling you the end right there.
Interesting.
So that is that. I also kind of think that Jon's going to end up killing Daenerys.
Oh my gosh.
I think, and it's not going to be his choice.
Okay.
But I think he's
going to.
I think he's going to have to kill her.
Oh, John's just had to kill so many people that he didn't want to.
I know, and that's the thing too. Like he has to kill Ygritte.
So
and
tragic.
he doesn't want to do it, right? But he did it.
I mean, he doesn't.
But right,
The little kid.
yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
I do.
But I think he's going to have to make a choice. And I think Dany's going to be that choice. He's going to end up killing her. How about you? What's your three-eyed raven time? What do you got?
Oh my gosh, are you ready for this?
I got it. Let's go.
Okay. First, I think that Jaime's going to kill Cersei.
Yes, because of that prophecy that the lady told her when she was a kid.
What was it?
Eventually she's going to see all of her kids die, and that the younger brother is going to have to kill her. And so yes, but you're right.
Okay. But I kind of think that it's actually going to be Arya. That Arya's going to take his face because
great
Cersei's
one.
on her list.
Great one.
Right?
Great. I love that.
Because I
idea.
want Arya to be able to get everybody on her list.
Yes.
And then so then Bran, I think, is Bran the Builder, who helped build the wall just
Yes.
because he's time traveling, he's doing all this crazy stuff. So I feel like that's something that
we
a lot
know
of
he
people...
can manipulate time and
yeah,
space. Yes.
yeah. But here's my crazy one.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay, speaking of taking faces, I think Littlefinger is alive.
Stop it.
I think that was way too poor of a death. Otherwise, it would have been under my worst moments.
Okay.
I feel like Littlefinger would not have fallen for that. I think that his death was a little piss poor for such an epically wretched character that he is.
Yep.
And I think Littlefinger is the smartest person in this show.
Okay.
And I think that he switched faces and he's just chilling out at Winterfell doing something, guys, because right before he dies, he gives a coin to this random woman that we see walking around.
Oh, yes.
Kind of like in Bravos, you have the coin.
Yes.
So
Valar Morghulis.
yes,
Yes.
I don't know what's going on with this coin in Littlefinger, but I don't think that was Littlefinger who died. And if Littlefinger's still alive, this universe just got really interesting.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. I would be shocked.
I don't know where it would fit in because once again, who run the world? Girls. But
True.
it would
yes.
be really, really amazing to have him come back.
I would agree.
Thanks.
I think that's it for now.
Yes.
I think let's close this bad boy
Okay.
out. I think our next episode we're going to talk about the trailer.
Agreed. We'll break it down.
Yes, we'll break down the trailer, but this again was just an introduction to who we are. We wanted to give you some value of who we are, what we're doing, and what we intend on having here. So, all right, let's close this bad boy out.
thank you guys so much for listening to our first episode of The North Remembers. Obviously, this is going to be a short season because there's a short season of television shows. But if you want, feel free to head on over to your podcast app of choice and leave us a rating and review, especially if you've been a podcast listener of ours and you know how we do. Feel free to leave that rating and review just so other people can find us for this final season. And feel free to share this podcast episode. Share it on your Facebook wall and Twitter. Share it in your Instagram or Facebook stories. Sharing is caring. And once again, this is going to get people hyped up and ready for the season of Game of Thrones.
And you also want to go to MaryandBlake.com and check out all of our other podcasts that we have, including This Is Us 2, a podcast about This Is Us, Outlander Cast, a podcast about Outlander, and pretty much everything else that we're doing over there, and all the different blogs and everything. We just want you to become one of the 100,000 members of Mary and Blake, the community. We're here to do this and enjoy Game of Thrones, talk about it with you, break it down, and as a giant thank you to all of our listeners. We're here. Our vacation, our 6-day vacation in Westeros has begun.
We're ready. We're ready.
I'm ready too.
Well, for now, my name's Mary Larson.
My name's Blake.
And the North remembers.